Picture a luncheon table in the early 1950s, neat, understated, and ready for guests. And right there in the center, a bowl of Waldorf salad. Cool, fresh, restrained, and very much not a sugary fruit cocktail it sometimes gets mistaken for today. Somewhere along the way, the Waldorf salad lost its way. Today, we're bringing it back the way it was actually served and enjoyed in the 1950s.
Welcome to Apaulo Diner.
Hello my friends of fellow Apollonians, welcome back to Apaulo Diner. I'm your host Apollo Jupiter, and today we're making another true mid-century classic. The Waldorf Salad dates back to the 1890s when it first appeared at the Waldorf-Astoria hotel, created by maître d'hôtel Oscar Chirky as a refined mix of apples, celery and mayonnaise. You heard that right? Apples and mayonnaise, an unusual but delightful combo. By the 1950s it had become something wonderfully practical, a clean, elegant salad served at luncheons, hotel cafes and dinner tables across America. No marshmallows, no pineapple, no strange surprises, just balance, crunch and good judgment. Let's get started! Let's start with the backbone of a proper Waldorf salad, the apples. For about 4 servings we'll need 2 good-sized crisp apples, something tart and lively. Granny Smith works beautifully here, but anything firm with a bit of bite will do. Nothing soft, nothing mealy, and definitely nothing that tastes like it already gave up halfway through life. This salad relies on texture, and soggy apples would be, well, a very different kind of salad. Traditionally, the apples would be peeled. It gives us a cleaner texture and a cleaner look, exactly what a well-behaved mid-century salad was going for. Back then, even the fruit was expected to show up properly dressed. Once peeled, we decor them and dice the apples into neat bite-sized pieces and toss them right away with about 1 to 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. Just enough to keep them from browning and to brighten the flavor. Back in the 50s, this recipe wasn't about drowning fruit in awkward sweetness. The apples were meant to taste like apples. Once those are done, the bowl is already off to a good start, and now we can give the salad some structure. For that, we'll need about 2 stalks of celery finely sliced. But first, let's remove a few of those celery strings. Cut off the top and the base and use a small knife to slip under the rib and strip away as many as you can. It's optional, but a nice touch. Since we're eating the celery raw, we want to avoid those chewy bits and any unexpected moments of mid-salad dental floss. Now we're aiming for clean, elegant little half moons. They add structure and a cool, subtle crunch. Think of it as the scaffolding that holds the salad together, without trying to steal the spotlight. Then we bring in the grapes. Around half a cup or 100 grams halved. Sweet, juicy, and just enough to keep things interesting. And now, this is usually the moment when things take a turn. Because someone out there, probably in the late 60s, decided that Waldorf salad needed pineapple. And marshmallows. And in some truly questionable cases, even both. I'm all for creative cooking, but if your Waldorf salad jiggles, squeaks, or gives you a sugar rush, something's gone terribly wrong. Those additions belong in ambrosia salad, which, by the way, I've covered too. But here, they just drown out the beautifully balanced flavor. This was meant to be a light, tangy, subtly fruity appetizer, not a dessert in disguise. So we're keeping it classic. Balanced, composed, and just sweet enough to keep you curious. Now it's time to bring it all together with mayonnaise. We'll need about half a cup or 120 grams of good quality mayo. It's important that we don't drown the fruit in it. We just want to gently wrap the mayo around it. And yes, this is the part where some people get a little nervous. Apples and mayonnaise? Really? But trust me, there's something quietly magical about it. Soft, creamy, slightly tangy. It turns everything into one beautifully balanced bite. Not quite sweet, not quite savory, just Waldorf. It's really something special. So like I said, we're not drowning the salad here. Just fold everything gently until it's lightly coated. It should look composed, not like it lost a fight with that jar of mayo. Now for the finishing touches. A small pinch of salt is usually all it needs. Just enough to sharpen the flavor and pull everything together. In the end, tasting is your friend. Personally, I like a touch more salt. I think it brings out that slight tanginess even more. And if you like, you can also add a tiny bit of sugar. That was actually quite common in 1950s home recipes. Not enough to make it sweet, just enough to round out the edges. And finally, the extra crunch, the walnuts. We add about half a cup or 60 grams lightly chopped. Not pulverized, not fancy, just broken up by hand or with a knife so they still have some texture. We fold them in last to keep them from going soggy. Walnuts have standards. If you add them too early, they lose their crunch and get dramatic. At this point, the salad should feel balanced. Nothing overpowering, nothing showy, just cool, crisp, and quietly confident. Very much like the decade it came from. Before serving, we give the salad a little time to collect itself. About 20 to 30 minutes in the fridge is perfect. Just enough to let the flavors settle and mingle. Not ice cold, just cool and composed, like it's fresh from a 1950s hotel kitchen, and knows it looks good on a lettuce leaf, and that's exactly how it was served. A small scoop on a crisp iceberg or butter lettuce leaf. Maybe with a toast point or two leaning politely on the side. Now, if this seems like a tiny salad, that's because it is. In the 1950s, this wasn't meant to fill the plate. It was a little moment of elegance before the roast arrived. It had manners. Feel free to indulge yourself with a larger bowl. I won't tell. In fact, I fully support it. Now let's go ahead and give it a taste. I love it. It really is something special. You have to try it. Perfect for those New Year's resolutions or just for when you want something a little lighter. Cool, crisp, a little creamy, just the right balance of sweet and savory. Simple, elegant, and unmistakably classic. And no marshmallows inside. And there we have it, a true Waldorf salad just the way it was served in the 50s. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me here at Apaulo Diner. It's always a pleasure having you. If you enjoyed this recipe, please leave a like and subscribe for more vintage dishes just like this one. And I'd love to hear how yours turned out, or if you've ever run into one of those marshmallow-filled versions in the wild. You'll also find some wonderful companion content right here on screen. Until next time, keep things light, keep things lovely, and don't be afraid of a little old school charm. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.